Hey, welcome to the channel. I'm Sean, and this is ToneFlow Studio. Today, I thought we'd have some fun in Suno. We're gonna take a look at the sounds feature. We're gonna create a sample pack and make our own lo-fi drum kit. We're gonna pull it into Logic, and I'm gonna show you how easy it is to just take all of these samples and just drop them in all at once and customize our own drum machine kit in Logic and save it for use in our projects. So it should be good. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get into it. All right, today I thought we'd have some fun. In Suno, we are going to take a look at the sounds feature. Okay, so this is their one-shot and loop generation that's going to give you basically samples. So you can build your own custom sample packs using the Suno AI generator. So it's kind of neat. What I thought we would do is generate some lo-fi drum kit sounds and pull it into Logic, and I'll show you how easy it is to create your own custom drum kit using those samples, and it's pretty fun. The first thing I want to do is I want a little help in generating some of these prompts. I'm going to hit up Google AI, and you could obviously use ChatGPT or any of the AIs that you like if you want help with this. But I just asked it. I said I want to make some samples in Suno. I need a prompt for their sounds feature to generate some samples for a drum kit in the lo-fi downtempo style. I would like 3 different prompt characteristics for each of these drums: kick, snare, hi-hat, and percussion. All right, so it comes up with a little answer for me here on how to do it. So it says you want sounds that feel lived in, warm, and slightly imperfect, right? Of course, that's what we're going for. So they're giving me some prompts. So what we could do is just, if we're good with these, we could just copy and paste them into Suno. So let's take a look here. Kick drums, the muffled thump, characteristics, organic and pillowy. And they're telling me this is a one-shot, soft, muffled kick drum, felt beater, 1960s jazz studio recording, warm analog tube saturation, short decay, organic thumb. All right, so let's copy that. Now, I'm in a workspace where I've actually gone ahead and did this the other day. I worked on some of these. So I'm just going to show you how to do a few of these here. And then I'm going to take some of what I have already and just pull it into Logic, just to skip ahead. And I prepared some of these ahead of time that I'm going to show you in Logic. But let's go ahead and describe the sound we want. Now, we're in Create tab, and we are in the Sounds tab here. So we're going to do that. We're going to make sure one shot is selected in this case. So for that, we're not going to need the BPM, and we're not going to need necessarily the key for the drums. So let's go ahead and create. So let's listen to the first one. All right, so super muffled. That one's got a little bit more thump and a little louder. Okay, but you get the picture. All right, so dusty sampled, single kick hit, lo-fi hip hop aesthetic, muffled low end, 12-bit crushed. All right, let's give this one a shot. Just easily to copy and paste and create. So you can see how easy it is to go in here and do this. Now, the thing that you need to know is that there, in some instances, you're going to have to just generate several versions of this to get something you like, because sometimes these are a little glitchy. You know, that sounded more like a hi-hat hit. This one, that sounded pretty cool. That's pretty dusty, but see that top one. So if you want to try it again, just hit create, and it's going to just cycle through and use that same prompt. But you can just literally come back and forth here and just copy and paste your each additional prompt and just really quickly generate a sample library for yourself. So you'll notice that sometimes, even though it's a one shot, it gives you a little bit of a loop. Okay, that one, this was a sub bass, and that one sounded like a pretty sub bassy, so that did pretty well. Let's listen to the snare drum and see. That's pretty important for this genre of music. Let's hear what it can come up with. One shot, crisp, lo-fi snare, high frequency, paper-like texture, dry and light, vintage dynamic mic. All right, so let's give it a listen. Now this prompt has 90 BPM chill hop vibe, but see, because it's a one shot. Okay, so that second one sounded kind of cool. That first one is just a little tick. So that's why you're going to have to hit create again and try to regenerate. I mean, you're just going to have to spend some time with this to really get the stuff that you like, because it really is a bit of a roll of the dice. Sometimes it gets a little confused. So there, it gave us a loop. Okay, some interesting stuff there, right? So let me have it generate a prompt. All right, so in this genre, a simple short loop in this genre. So 82 BPM it's telling us. So we'll do 82 BPM. Any key is fine. And let's go ahead and copy that in. And we want to make sure we're on loop setting. It's from the one shot to loop. So let's go ahead and generate that. It might take a few more seconds to generate this one because it is a loop, but it's still pretty quick. 11-second loop. Let's give it a listen. Okay, so I see I have the Rhodes. So that's given us Rhodes piano. I should have indicated that I wanted a drum loop. Let's see here. Drum beat loop. Okay, my bad. I wasn't specific enough. So that's cool. It gave us some Rhodes that we can use. And yeah, we can pull those in, guys. So that's how you can build up an entire sample pack with additional elements that can be very useful. But again, you'll have to spend some time generating and find stuff that really feels cool. But you can see how easy it is to get something going pretty quickly and pretty robust. Again, you just have to sift through the stuff that is worth it, because sometimes it'll kind of glitch out and it will give you a little sort of unusable pieces. So let's listen to this drum loop sample once it generates here. All right, so yeah, I would want to run this a few times to get something that I felt was cool, because it's really a roll of the dice, and some of this stuff feels usable and some of it is definitely for the trash bin. But I think that's the nature of some of this AI. You do your best to just keep honing it and generating until you find something that you like and iterating on the generation. So let's listen to these. Anyway, that's how quickly we can get something up and going. Now, let me show you. Once you have something, now the other thing that's a little frustrating, and maybe Suno will eventually come up with a better method for this. I know there's some extensions that you can get for Chrome. I didn't want to bother with third-party extensions that will go in and download everything for you. But you have to go in and basically with each one individually download it. There's no way to just bulk select these and download them in a pack. That would make it super useful if you could. I would just love that, Suno, but we're not there yet with that one. So I was able to assemble all of these into a folder, Lo-Fi Kit. All right, so let me show you. I've got a project I've been working on, but I'm going to show you this in a minute. Now, you want to make sure in Logic you have a new software instrument track. Now, of course, I'm showing you Logic. That's my workstation. But if you have your own workstation, a different workstation, there might be different ways of doing this. But I find this is super awesome for Logic to use the Drum Machine Designer. So you're going to want to select a new instance of your Drum Machine Designer. And that's going to pull open an empty Drum Machine Designer. And now check this out. You literally can just select all of these and you can just pull it in and drop it on the pads, and voila. It literally just fills it all up in here for you. Now let's see. These were 1, 2, 3, 11, 8, 10. Yep. So it pulled all in, right? So there they are. So now this is available on my keyboard or for my step sequencer. Now, here's what I want to show you. So obviously some of these are good to go right off the bat as I'm clicking on and sampling them. But something like this, there's a little bit of a loop in there, right? So I'm gonna have to go in and edit it. So if I've got my cue, I've got my sampler main tab here, but sometimes if you're in and out of this, it'll default to this pad control. So you just want to make sure you're in sampler main, and then you're going to just click on these little sliders here. I'm going to click on the bottom slider and just drag it over to the start of the waveform, and that's going to align it to the start of that. And if you have something at the tail, you could do the same thing, and this is a fader. These top ones are a fader, so it'll fade out the sound. So much better, right? Okay, here's a long one. Okay. So that's got that first hit, but it's got that first. Okay, so we can jump in here and find what we like for this hi-hat. Or this little, that could be a little percussion, like a wood block. Or it could be a hat for us. Okay, ooh, I like that hat. Okay. Cool, so, oh, there's one that's pretty long, so I'd want to shorten that. So we could just drag it up. Make sure you drag the bottom to cut it off. And then the top, of course, is your fade. Okay. Super long, right? That might sound cool if it was pitched a little higher. So you can come into your pad controls. Change that. That's interesting, right? Okay, so that's how easy that is to get that up and going, all right? And then if you want to save it, you would come over here right now. It's just empty kit. This is going to be localized to this project, all right? But if you come up here into your sound library, you can, the shortcut for that, of course, is Y on your keyboard, but you can come up here, user patches, all right? And then down here at the bottom in this save, and then you're going to make sure, you want to make sure that you are in the instrument folder of the patches, not kit pieces. These are the individuals. You want to make sure you're in Apple Music apps, patches, instrument. That should be the default path that it loads up. And then you just rename it, whatever you want it to be, and save it. And of course, I did that the other day here with my lo-fi kits. I did a couple different versions. All right. So that's how easy that is. And then you could get something going. I've got a step sequencer here. Okay, so if you guys know, we come in here and we could hit E to open up. This is going to give us a piano roll from MIDI or the step sequencer. And we just enter our beats. You can choose your pattern length here, but let's just line this up. All right, something simple like that. And then you can come in. I always like to come in if I'm doing like an eighth note pattern. I want to hit the velocity value and just kind of tweak some of these. All right, and that's how simple it is to get that up and going. So cool, right? Yeah, I dig it. So here was a little pattern I was working on. Got my original drums that I've separated out. The other thing I like about this is that, all right, so I've got my original pattern. I've broken out the snare and hi-hats separately so I can do a little bit more processing on those. I've got a snare roll that is just from a sample that a little loop that I on one of my Suno generations, the drum track, and there's a little loop in there. And then this bass line. Okay, and then just with the default electric piano, I threw an ARP on there and just chose a classic groove preset. And then there's some reverb and a send with a tape delay, just on a quarter note. And that creates this really kind of cool little vibey thing happening here. Okay, add some noise from the Apple Loop library, hit hit O, and then you can come in and search for vinyl, and you'll find a bunch of little noise effects that are cool, and I like to use those in this type of thing. All right, and then I've got some other stems here from a version of this song that I saved this pattern out that I have right here, and then I had it generate a track there, and so I pulled some stems in from that and used it, so you can hear what that sounds like real quick. Just a little taste of that. Okay, so that, I feel like it still needs a little life. So what I did was, so I prompted it, and I had that little piece done in a bit of a 90s trip hop, so it's kind of a Massive Attack style. I've been on that kind of a kick lately. Or I had Google AI give me a prompt for a Massive Attack style track, and then I used some of that for my style, and I applied it to that bounce of that what we just heard in that other project, and then I got this. All right, some cool stuff happening there to play around with. And I could probably go in and maybe tweak the bass a little bit if I want to change a little bit of a chord progression with the bass, because right now it just repeats that same figure in C minor. But I could adjust that a little bit and maybe bring in I really did like that electric piano. Let's see if I do this real quick. New sophomore instrument track. And if I were to just copy that, and I could just find a spot here to paste that in. All right. And if I want to very quickly set up a send, so a bus one, and I can just do audio FX, and I like this Valhalla vintage verb. I usually like to put on there with an EQ with the bass rolled off. All right. That's a very standard reverb bus. And then just a little bit of that. And then of course that tape delay on bus 2, which is just a default Logic tape delay. Could put that EQ on there again, roll off the bass, any bass, and turn that up. And just see what and of course our ARP pattern. So that would be under MIDI effects, arpeggiator. It was classic groove 1. Can't remember what I had here for the variation. But let's just listen back to that real quick. Okay, I could play around with that in the mix, but that gives some of that original character back of that original sample, that original project. And that's it, So that's how we could do the complete life cycle of something like this. Now, the drums are a little bit heavier. So then I could go back in and bring my lo-fi kit back in, and I'd really want to work those drums a little bit more. I'd want to make sure all of the compression is set, the levels are good, they're really pumping. And again, you might have to really play around to make sure you'd spend some time to get the perfect sounds. And if you want your track to really feel alive, you'd have to have, some little subtle things happening, some variation in the beat, and, little dynamics, etc. So that's where you really put your time in the project. But this should give you an idea of fun stuff in Suno. I love the idea of bouncing back and forth between Suno and your own workstation and trading off the idea. It's like it's a creative partner in a sense, so using the other AI tools to help you get those prompts that you need for Suno. And I think it's pretty fun. So hopefully this encourages you to give it a try, create your own loop sample libraries back and forth with Suno to really help make your creative exploration and your creative projects come alive. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for hanging with me. I'll talk with you soon. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for hanging with me. As always, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's going to help me to grow the channel. And if you're interested in trying out Suno but don't have an account yet, there is a link in my description and in the comments. You can take a look at that. It's free to get started and it's a lot of fun. That's it for today. Until next time, talk with you soon.